United USA 2020 and beyond. Check this
This
out.
is stopped at midnight, and the last run, the last circulation of up to 1 million copies have been distributed in the early hours of this morning. Normally, the daily circulation is about 86,000, so they've printed about 1 million, including this one right here. Well, we've gone to video now, but you can see the front page right here of the Apple Daily newspaper. It's a photo of their Chengquano headquarters and people lining up outside in the wee hours of the morning to get a copy of this newspaper like this. It basically says Hong Kong came out in the rain to say their painful goodbyes. And as I drove into work this morning, I do drive past Chengquano. I did see at least one person carrying a stack of newspapers under his arm across the street in front of me. So this is a very polarizing issue, and we're not here to glorify the Apple Daily or laud its achievements or anything like that, because if you ask any two people in Hong Kong their opinions on the Apple Daily, they will have very different opinions. It's a polarizing publication. Over 26 years, Apple Daily has been a thorn in the side of Beijing, unearthing alleged hidden wealth of Communist Party officials in China.
Well, here's another one, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. Hey, what's up, everybody? So, the Hong Kong Apple Daily newspaper prints its last edition as free press era ends. Publication says demise comes after the government froze its funds, seized computers, arrested executives, and halting critical reporting of Beijing. So, there, here in America, I would say that most of us don't. I've heard of this publication before. I've seen some articles from them in the last decade here or there. I don't follow them, but so it would, whether you're from the UK, Canada, Australia, America, whatever, most of us probably don't know. But this is fresh off the press. This is new news coming in the last few hours. Checked some news briefings on it. I'll go ahead post the link to it so you guys can check it out. But it says right here, Hong Kong, the Apple Daily, Hong Kong's defiant pro-democracy newspaper. So they're basically standing up for freedom. They're for democracy. Of course, the CCP, the Chinese regime, communist government, of course, is going to want to shut them down, in my opinion. Obviously, it says right here, defiant, they're pro-democracy. So they're for democracy, right? They're for freedom. The CCP doesn't want that. Anyway, the article goes on to say that drew the ire of the China's leaders and said it would print its final issues Thursday, ending the era of a unfettering reporting critical Beijing in the city's mainstream print scene. It says the 26-year-old newspaper, the Apple Daily, which is the majority owned by jailed Beijing critic Jimmy Lai, I think that's how you pronounce it, Lai, has come under immense pressure from Hong Kong's authorities, who in the past week froze the company's assets, all bank accounts, seized journalists' computers, and charged 2 of its top executives under the national security law that it imposed by Beijing last year to crush dissent in the city. Now, I did a video about this. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Chinese citizens, whatever freedoms they had in July 2nd, July 1st, July 2nd, the national security law was passed, which basically took whatever freedoms they had. So whatever freedom of speech they thought they had, or the right to protest, it's basically a law that states that anything you say that is against the government can lock you up to 99 years. Basically a life sentence, up to a life sentence for just dissenting or saying something that you disagree with what your government is doing. I'm not kidding about that. You guys can look it up. You don't have to check my video. Just check that out. Anyway, it says the Apple Daily reported that its management decided considerations. Some of the hundreds of journalists who would have lost their jobs had quit in recent days and weeks, concerned about their security and precarious position of their employer. So it goes on to say that the era of free political speech, as we have long known, is gone in Beijing and Hong Kong and China in general. After the national security law going back, like I said, I'm going to show you guys right quick, okay? Hong Kong national security law. This rhetoric right here is like totally redundant nonsense and tells you nothing about what it actually is. But the basic, when you check the top of the search engine on Google and you say China's National Security Act, July 2020, it'll say the Hong Kong National Security Law, officially the law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in Hong Kong's special administrative region, is a piece of national security legislation concerning Hong Kong. That was totally redundant. Yes, we know it's national security legislation concerning Hong Kong. Yeah, we get that part. What is it, right? And then you delve deeper into it, and there. It's basically like, well, China has its legal framework, and they have to do what they have to do. No, this is taking the rest of the Chinese citizens' rights, whatever freedom of speech to freedom of protest, they can't do that anymore. Okay, it says the new law key provisions include crimes of secession, subversion, terrorism, or collusion with foreign forces, or are punishable by a maximum sentence of life in prison. So that's what I was just talking about. So damaging public transport facilities can be considered terrorism. Those found guilty will not be allowed to stand for public office. Companies can be fined if convicted under the law. Beijing will establish new security office in Hong Kong, and the law's enforcement of personnel, neither of which should come under a local authority's jurisdiction. Says also this office can send some cases to be tried in mainland China. When it says some cases to be tried, it's basically saying like 99 or 100%, basically is what they're really saying. It just doesn't say that, but that's what they mean. In addition, Hong Kong, it says, will have to establish its own National Security Commission to enforce the laws. So not only a commission, but a separate police force, separate branch of military. That's what they're saying. With Beijing appointed advisor, of course. Next one, it says Hong Kong's chief executive will have the power to appoint judges to hear national security cases, raising fears about judicial anonymity. So, autonomy. Here's the thing. Basically, it's a bunch of justifications to say, here's why we're doing this, and basically we're taking whatever freedoms we think we can take and we should take to maintain order and shut all of you down from rising up against us. That's what they're basically saying. It says, importantly, Beijing will have the power over how the law should be interpreted, not any Hong Kong judicial or policy body, but if the law conflicts with any Hong Kong law, the Beijing law takes priority. So it's like the difference between Fed and state, right? The federal jurisdiction kind of overrides the rest. Anyway, it says that some trials will be heard behind closed doors. That's like military court. That's like federal court. That's like even in America, like if you like work for the government or you're contracted by the government, like those are court cases that don't see the light of day. Okay, they're not fair trials. They're basically rigged trials, and they usually only have one outcome: guilty. Because you are guilty before you prove yourself innocent, and that's just the way it is. People suspected of breaking the law can be wiretapped and put under surveillance, it says. Management of foreign non-governmental organizations and news agencies will be strengthened. And finally, it says the law will also apply to non-permanent residents and people from outside Hong Kong who are not permanent residents of Hong Kong. So they're not just talking about Chinese citizens that live here in America. They're straight up talking about other citizens. It says the law will not only apply to non-permanent residents and people from outside Hong Kong who are not permanent residents of Hong Kong. They're basically, they're talking about Chinese people. So they're like, hey, if you were here once upon a time, we might be coming for you at some point, especially if you come back here to visit your family, or especially, you know what I mean? Seriously, that's what they're really saying. So anyway, this article goes on. I will leave the link in the description for both. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you respect the content I'm sharing with you, please like it and share it and get it out there. Thank you.